Today we're going to learn the basics of layout design and some tricks to help speed up our workflow in Photoshop. The first step after opening Photoshop is to click on New File. Now, on the right side, we need to set our file settings. Make sure the unit is set to centimeters, and here you can define the width and height of your sheet. For example, I'm going to create a 50 by 100 centimeters layout. For resolution, if you're planning to print your work, 250 to 300 dpi is a good range. Avoid going above 300, as it may cause the paper to look like it's soaked, like a watercolor effect that smears the paper. Also, for color mode, if your work is intended for print, make sure to choose CMYK. Now click Create. Step 1 after entering Photoshop and setting up your sheet is to create a safe margin. Here's what we do. Go to the View tab at the top of Photoshop, then go down and click on Guides and select New Guide Layout. Here, we can create a safe working area. Set the layout settings exactly like mine. Make sure to check both columns and rows and set the number of each to 1. At the bottom, you can define the margin from the edges. This is helpful for printing to keep your design away from the edge of the paper. For example, I'm using a 1 centimeter margin. Click OK. That's step 1. Now, let's move on to the project I picked to lay out. It's a project from the architecture firm Big, and it's pretty interesting. Here's how I'll start. First, I drag an image onto the sheet. I click OK and place it at the top section, making sure it stays inside the safe margins. Then I press Ctrl+T to scale it up and adjust it to fit the guides. I move it a bit lower to position it nicely. Once the image is scaled, we need to remove the extra parts. From the top left, choose the selection tool and select the area to delete. When I press Delete, Photoshop says I can't delete it because it's a smart object. So I press E on the keyboard to select the eraser tool and click once on the image. Photoshop will give a warning saying it needs to rasterize the smart object. I click Yes, and then press Delete to remove the upper part. Done. That's the first part. Now, I want to add a text box in the lower left area. I press T on the keyboard and select the text area. To add content, I go to the ArchDaily website and copy the text. Then I paste it here with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. The font size is too big, so I adjust it from the top, somewhere between 25 and 30 points. I think 30 points looks better. That's good. You can add more text, but keep in mind, a clean layout shouldn't be text-heavy. That's a key principle. I bring in the rest of the text and paste it. Everything looks good. For this part, the font I chose is called Atom. I can bold the first few words to make them stand out, like making Northern Sweden bigger. Now, let me explain a few basic typography tips. I press T, then select all the text with Ctrl+A. On the right side, you'll see two sections, character and paragraph. If you don't see them, go to the window menu and enable paragraph. Let's start with the character panel. Click on it. Here, you can change the font size. From this section, you can also adjust the line spacing. If it seems too much or too little, you can fine-tune it. For now, Auto works fine for me. Next, you can control the space between words, try increasing it and see how it affects the layout. These are the most important settings you'll need for working with text. Now, let's look at the paragraph panel. In this section, you can decide whether your text is left-aligned, right-aligned, or center-aligned. Since the text is in English, left alignment works best. Click to apply the alignment you want, and that's it for this part. Now, I want to check if the text size is suitable for printing. Is it too big or too small? Here's how you check. Hold down the spacebar on your keyboard and right-click with your mouse. Click on Print Size. This shows how your text will appear when printed. You can again hold space and drag the view around if needed. Perfect! Now, I slightly move this text box upwards to adjust the placement. If you look to the left side of your screen, you'll see a ruler and guidelines. If you don't see them, just press Ctrl plus R to toggle the rulers on. Drag a guide from the ruler to where you want it. If you right-click on the ruler, you can also change the unit. I'll keep it in centimeter. If you make a mistake, just press Ctrl plus Z to undo. Always remember, in layout design, all elements should be aligned unless you're going for a fully graphic-based layout. Even then, consistency in alignment still matters. Now, I want to add a diagram to this section. Let's say this is the diagram I want to insert. It's showing up on the top layer, so I press Ctrl plus Shift plus to send it to the top layer stack. Alternatively, pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus will send it to the bottom, just above the background. Now, I scale it up to fit better. If there's too much gap, I bring it up again and make it a bit larger. Looks great. I also want to keep alignment with the other elements, so I drag another guideline to mark that position. Perfect! Now, I want to add 3 more diagrams at the bottom. Diagrams 23, 24, and 25. I start by bringing in diagram 23. Here's a quick trick. After placing it, if you press Ctrl plus Shift plus, it will move to the topmost layer, which is the opposite of what we did earlier. Now, I want to remove the white border around the image. What do? I press W on the keyboard, or from the top left tools, I select the Magic Wand tool, then I click on the white area around the diagram. To select more than one area, I hold Shift and continue clicking. Now, this process can take a while, so here's a shortcut. After selecting one area with the Magic Wand tool, right-click on the selected area and choose Select Similar. Great. Now, if you press Delete, it won't work yet because the layer is still a smart object. So, press E on your keyboard to switch to the Eraser tool, click once on the canvas, and Photoshop will ask if you want to rasterize the layer. Click Yes. Then press Delete, and the extra white areas are gone. That's it for one diagram. To keep the image quality intact, right-click on the layer and choose Convert to Smart Object again after editing. Don't forget this step. I won't resize it yet because I want all diagrams to be the same size, then resize them together later. Now, I repeat the same steps for the next diagrams. I select all 3 diagrams together by holding Shift, press Ctrl plus T to transform and scale them down. Then I position them on the layout. If they still look too big, hold Shift again while resizing to maintain proportions. All 3 are selected. I nudge them up a little. If it doesn't move, make sure they're all selected properly. Now, I use guides again from the ruler to make sure everything is aligned. Pull down a guide to keep alignment perfect. Next, let's say I want to add more diagrams inside a box. I import some ready-made diagrams into this section. Now, let me show you another method of removing the white background, different from the Magic Wand tool. This time, I select the rectangular marquee tool and draw a box around the diagram. Then press Ctrl plus Shift plus I to invert the selection. This now selects the white border around the diagram. Again, pressing Delete won't work unless it's rasterized, so hit E on the keyboard, click once to rasterize, then Delete. Always remember to right-click the layer and convert to Smart Object again after you're done cleaning it up. That way, resizing won't reduce quality. I place this diagram lower in the layout. and maybe make it slightly bigger. The previous size was too small. To align it vertically with the diagrams on the left and right, I bring out a ruler again and snap it in place. Repeat the same for the upper diagram. Each diagram, we obviously need some text descriptions. Press T on the keyboard and click to create a text box. Use a smaller font size here. If your main font was 30, make this one around 25 or even 20. Type something like diagram, though ideally you should include a short explanation like exploded axonometric or whatever the diagram shows. Now use Ctrl plus Alt plus Shift and drag the text down to duplicate it for the next diagram. Do this for all three. So now the diagrams are placed and we have their captions below them. Next, in this section, we can add a couple of render images. Don't forget to also include explanatory text here too. For example, label this part as design process. All right. I'm drawing one more guideline and bringing it down. If you ever want to remove a guide, just click on it, drag it away from the canvas, and it disappears. It's gone from your view and your layout. I want to add 2 rendered images in this section and a larger render just below them. I'll use guides again to line things up. I drag one down to mark where the large render should go. Then I import the renders I've already created. Resize them a bit. Obviously, they're too big at first, and snap one into the corner. Now some parts of the render extend outside the layout. No problem. Just select those extra parts with the rectangular marquee tool. Hold Shift to add more to the selection if needed, then press E to activate the eraser tool, confirm rasterization if prompted, and press Delete to clean it up. Although ideally you'd resize it properly, I'm doing this quick method just for the sake of time in the tutorial. Don't use this in final production unless needed. Now, I'll place another smaller render, something that fits in the gap. Sometimes these images get too small when placed, which isn't ideal. Maybe place 2 or 3 in this area instead. So, I import another one and drop it roughly in the center of the space. Resize a bit to fit, then use the rectangular marquee tool again to select and remove unwanted parts. Repeat the same process for the next image. Below each image, it's always good to add a label or caption. Press T on the keyboard to activate the text tool, click underneath the image, set the text color to white for visibility, and type something like View or a more descriptive title. It would look better if you use a bolder font, depending on your layout style. Now for the bottom section, let's say we want to add a plan drawing. Import the plan, scale it up as needed. If it appears on top of everything, just press Ctrl plus Shift plus to send it to the bottom layer just above the background. Tip: it's actually better to import both images first, then adjust their layer positions together for consistency. Again, to clean up extra parts, use rectangular marquee tool to select. If delete doesn't work, press E to rasterize, then delete, easy as that. Now, I add another text label under the plan, activate text tool, click, and write something like Ground Floor Plan 01, maybe increase its size or boldness for emphasis. Then I nudge the plan upward slightly to fit the layout better. Now let's leave a dedicated space to add our name and instructor's name. It should be near the bottom of the layout. Placement here is a bit subjective, but a clean placement really elevates the overall look. So I grab the text tool, click on the empty space, and type something like Student Instructor. That wraps up most of the layout except this one section that doesn't have a diagram yet. I'm going to place one in that blank spot now. Just remember, Label every view clearly, especially on the left-hand side, by typing something like view under each diagram. Now, we should also add a title for the whole sheet, the project's name or subject. Press T, and in a larger font, maybe 40 or 45 points, type your title. Then Ctrl+T to scale the title if needed. Change its color to white and apply bold, but if the background is too light and the text doesn't stand out, here's a nice trick. Change the text color to black. Then create a rectangle underneath the text. Stretch it just enough to act as a background. Go to the Properties panel, set the fill color to white, and remove the stroke. Optionally, round the corners from the top right corner of the Properties panel. If it still looks too strong, reduce its opacity to about 80% for a softer look. Want to go a step further? Select your text layer, double-click on it to open Layer Styles. Add a black stroke around 5px to make your title pop. This trick gives it a clean, professional touch that helps it stand out against any background. And finally, before exporting, if the guidelines are still showing and you want to remove them, go to View Guides, Clear Guides, or simply press Ctrl+H to toggle them off. That's it. You've now created a complete, well-aligned, professionally styled sheet. Thanks so much for watching. If this was helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Have a great day.